колеги, сьогодні завдяки пані Вірі Бутовій ми маємо десь такий, продовжуємо, вірніше, досвід нашої плідної співпраці. Надіюсь, що надалі так само буде десь для покращення мобільності між нашими закладами. Минулого року, в квітні, здається, не пам'ятаю місяць, ми мали гостьову лекцію, вірніше, працювали в тандемі також. Пані Віра була модератором зустрічі, ми провели успішно, як ми вважаємо, лекцію з історії англійської мови. Тому десь ми вирішили продовжити цю традицію, і я з приємністю долучилася до проведення цієї лекції. Сподіваюся на вашу активність, на активність здобувачів, всіх учасників. Хто буде, вірніше, приєднуватись під час зустрічі, ми розуміємо, в яких викликах ми зараз працюємо, залежні від цих обставин. Зараз, до речі, приєднуйте. Тому по мірі можливості будемо приєднуватись. Дякую всім, хто знайшов час і розділить цю годину трішки більше разом з нами на зустрічі. Також, допоки який буде формат сьогодні праці, лекція буде носити такий інтерактивний формат, десь традиційний буде від мене шматок пояснення, ілюстрації, і також в чаті, щоб десь не так я буду транслювати лекцію. В чаті є завдання, там є як poll questions, ми зараз з них розпочнемо, потім завдання, над якими, верніше, ви можете подумати під час лекції. Потім дуже сподіваюся, що буде від вас фідбек, і ми зможемо отримати відповіді на певні моменти. Тому перед тим, як я розпочну, так, і буду транслювати лекцію, ось ви бачите, що в чаті є poll questions, окей? Poll questions. Якщо зараз хтось вже може дати відповідь, було б дуже добре. Якщо ні, то, можливо, десь в середині пари ми виділимо час таке обговорення перед початком пари. Пізніше дамо можливість висловитися poll questions. Потім ми перейдемо до discussion, до цієї секції. Починати лекцію чи розпочнемо з poll questions?
Вибачте, я, можливо, пізніше доєднався, але в чаті я не бачу питань.
Те саме.
Окей, давайте я, мабуть, продублюю вже. Можливо, не всі бачать, ті, хто пізніше приєдналися.
Якщо пізніше приєдналися, пізніше, ніж навісно, то не бачать.
Так, добре, я тоді продублюю. Окей, бачимо, що є poll questions, окей, discussion questions, потім десь такі креативного плану.
Так, тепер видно.
Окей. Тому я думаю, що буде більш доцільно дати час, так, і ми десь через хвилин 10-15 повернемось до poll questions, так, потім discussion ми десь в кінці, ще був такий reflection. Окей, тому дозвольте, я поділюсь екраном і розпочнемо сьогодні нашу лекцію. Лекція тема доволі така актуальна, відкрита, ще мало досліджена, і десь вона такий вплив має і література, і лінгвістика, так, от. Окей, чи видно екран?
Видно.
Okay. So, we will start our lecture, and you see that is quite challenging and at the same time still an open question if we will speak, right, or while speaking about modern literature or contemporary literature. So today we will try to speak about literature evolution, right? And so in this context, so I mean that we will try to be focused on the, you see, representing of a conceptual metaphors in a contemporary literature. Mostly the focus will be on the English-speaking countries, okay? And so in the context, so we will try to explore the use of conceptual metaphors. You see, you will find in the chat section here the like a task. So is it possible for you to understand or to, you see, correlate the concept of a conceptual metaphor? What is that? How do you understand that? So you see, conceptual, which means that it is individual. Of course, it's based on the concept, but it's individual. You see, it is put by the writer, and it has its individual and, you see, maybe unique meaning here. Of course, while providing with a lot of individual metaphors, a lot of conceptual metaphors. So you see, the writer may shape the text in general, and so from this perspective, the text characteristic, right, may be different a little bit due to this, you see, unique or detailed analysis. So let's start. And so within the presentation and within our work today, so we'll try to speak or be focused on the conceptual metaphors, I mean on the individual, right, metaphors. So you see, how do you understand the concept of a metaphor? So that is something that we cannot understand in its direct meaning, right? But something which is, or which should be understood, and that is a literature, like a good possibility for us, right, to express that is in a figurative meaning, right? There's something that is not a direct but a figurative meaning. And that is a literature, right here, when we have a possibility, if we are the writer, and if we are the reader, so we may be provided with a lot of unique and conceptual metaphors. So that is why, that is just the shaping or maybe a key characteristic of a modern literature, because you see, most of the writers, along with main problems of identity, of migration, of transculture, because we know that modern literature, it is called to be transcultural literature, right? Because of the attention of the cultural component, of the cultural background, which is different. And one more time, that is maybe one more possibility to highlight on the importance of that. And so from prominent writers like Bharati Mukherjee, for example, or Jhumpa Lahiri, Amitan, you see, Salman Rushdie, and some of the other prominent writers, still they are focused on this characteristic, right, on the, you see, poetics. That is a way how the writer touch upon this or that problem. You see, that is with the help of the metaphors, which are unique, which we cannot find, and really that acquire its special interpreting and understanding, because you see, to read a text in a modern literature, it is not enough. So to read a text just when we have a leisure time, or when it is our maybe a way of relaxing, you see, so it may be not enough. So here, modern literature, that is something which is more difficult. And so from this perspective, you see, we have to read the text. So I will join Igor. Okay, we have to read, and you see, we have to deal with the text in some other way. So you see, be ready to provide with the detailed analysis. You see, pay attention to this unique characteristic. And so, in the context of our lecture today, we will try to examine how these modern writers, you see, use metaphors, you see, in order to speak again about the cultural identity, which is still in the process of formation, because still they cannot say for sure that, you see, their identity is fixed. Still, they are, or they seem to be invisible in a figurative meaning here in a new country, in a new environment, and that is quite challenging for the writers as well to speak about, to touch upon this problem. Also, so here in this context, we can't forget about the problem of generational conflict, about the, you see, experience that is due to different generation, you see, may be different. That is essay, that is for the first generation of immigrants, and essay for the second and the third, you see, for the third, for the third generation of immigrants. So you see, that is, these words, while reading such a unique or bilingual text, whether you see something like the exotisms, you see, exotisms, they are unique words or specific words which were taken from another language, and that have its, you see, unique meaning here, or individual or conceptual meaning that is by the writer, and that is to highlight on the importance, right, of that culture. Still, it is important here. And you see, in this context, or from this perspective, these words, or it seems that you need, or you agree, do you agree, it seems that we need, or we read something like a reference here, because you see that some of the words, imagine that you come across for the first time for the word essay, so what does it mean? Of course, we need some explanation, or we need a reference to understand what is that. But while reading such a text, while continue reading, so we may understand, by finishing that, or after reading such a unique text, we may understand that, you see, that is about the third generation of immigrants. which is still painful process for them, how to adapt to a new country, to a new environment. But still, you see, that is key characteristic of a prominent writers. And here, the words like isai, nisai, and sansai, that is to highlight the importance of these Japanese or Indian American, you see, immigrants that we may find in the poetics of Bharati Muharrij, of Jhumpalahiri, and some of the other, you see, prominent representatives of such a transcultural literature. So let's speak about the Issei, that is the first generation of immigrants. So you see, that is, so here, that mostly, here we have to speak about Japanese immigrants. So they often embody, right, and so live, or that is, they may correlate, or that is about the struggles, right, of them, of adapting to a new culture, you see, while holding into their own, or you see, cultural heritage. So on the one hand, so they have to hold, they have to follow the home traditions, but here, at the same time, you see, they need to adapt. They have to understand. So how to adapt to a new country, okay, one Victor, okay, how to adapt to a new country, and so how to, you see, be accepted fully like a true American. True American, I mean, справжній Americanus, right? True American. So here they are still in the process of adapting into a new country, and that is quite challenging for the writer, because from this perspective, literature may be characterized like the, you see, conventional literature as well. You see, like a lot of characteristics which we may find that are due to the biography of the writer as well. So really, that is quite challenging, right, for the writer to speak about that. So still, they are invisible, of course, in a figurative meaning. So mentally, you see, mentally, they are far away here from America, for example, right, from a new environment. So, but physically, they are here in a new country. They have to understand, they have to realize how to adapt. I mean, it is not just about the language barrier, right, but something else. So why do they keep silent? Why do they understand they are invisible, of course, in the figurative meaning? And really, this unique experience can be seen through the metaphor of a bridge. And so you see, bridge, that is something, of course, which is seems to be a powerful metaphor, which is invisible, of course. Also, while reading such text, you see, we may be provided about main events in the plot here, in what way the story will end. Of course, that is, in this context, we can't forget about the peculiarity of a modern literature that is quite open-ended here, right? So here we have to, or here we mostly may find, you see, an open ending. That is, you see, we can't predict in what way the story will end. That is up to the reader, you see, to draw his own conclusions, right, based on his own experience or on his own background. And you see, from this perspective, literature or the analysis of such a text seems to be more difficult, right? If we will correlate that with the analysis of a traditional literature, where in general, a lot of the texts were perceived like having a moral lesson, right, that we have to follow, a role model for everyone, for the reader. And that is why the character was perceived like someone who has a superpower, who is a superhero, right? And there were the common problems of love, fate, you see, or something like that. But you see here, that is be quite challenging to highlight and to speak about these unique problems. That is to correlate. Mostly that is more psychological. You see, attention, that is psychological characterization. And that is from this psychological input, here we have to speak a lot about, you see, physical portrait, physical image, right, of the writer, which is inside, which is invisible, right? But only with the deep analysis of such a text, we may find this problem. We may find that bridge, which is invisible, that is not just here, there is something which seems to be hidden, right, to some extent by the writer, and that is up to the reader to find. Right, you see this bridge to find this powerful metaphor, which may shape the whole text, okay, in general. So here, that is alone with the problem of generation, that is a conceptual metaphor of a bridge, which still, that is a characteristic for a lot of, you see, bilingual or transcultural or border writers, you see, they pretend to be called border writers, you see, because like they understand they are like their characters, they are on a border, on invisible border. It means they cannot decide whether they have to move away or to make one step forward. You see, they are still here. They, you see, stay here, and they still cannot overcome this bridge. And really, that is like they connecting, right? Two completely different worlds, right? But they fully belong to either of them. So you see, still in the process, and they understand that there is a space, of course, invisible space or invisible gap. They have to, you see, correlate or to fill in with something. So still, they understand that they will never, you see, fill in that gap or fill in that space with something, because you see, they are like a bridge, or like, you see, they live in between, you see, live in between. And so from this perspective, we may speak about hyphenated writer or hyphenated character, because you see, because of the attention or of the hyphen, the piece, which is important, still important for them. They cannot say for sure, you see, which identity really prevails. And that is like a mask. They are having like a mask of a trickster, that is having the false identity. So one day, or depend on the circumstances, so they may be, you see, or they may acquire a different identity. So no less important, we may carry some thought about less painful for them, but still you understand that is about the children of immigrants. So the third generation, that are the parents that are about 20, for example, right, that due to different reasons they decide to leave their country. You see, mostly women, that is, they follow in their husbands, and so for the husband, maybe to find the better life, or maybe to meet the American dream, that is to be successful, to have the equal rights, right, to be successful in life. But here about the second generation, that is about the children. You see, they were born here in America, but due to the different background of their parents, so they understand that they are different, you see, here in a new country. So they are second generation of immigrants, so really they were born in a new country, and that is a different country of them and of their parents, so they understand that they and their parents, they were born in a different countries. And you see, that is something that they understand, that they or have the feeling that they are caught between two cultures, between two completely different worlds. And you see, that is a process of being caught as well is considered to be a powerful metaphor, right, in this context. So here, so that is, on the one hand, they have to follow the traditional values, right, of their parents, and here they have to adapt, or you see, being raised here in a new environment, they have to follow the modern, you see, they have to understand that they are here and that is their home country. So often that is, if we will correlate to compare them with their parents, so such character, they are mostly assimilated, you see, and you see, if they understand that still, due to different background, most of their parents, they are different, but as well, they understand that is not just because of the color of the skin, but due to some different factors, they understand, or they are unique, or they are different, you see. So the third generation of immigrants as well, that is a sansei we may find here, or that is a conceptual metaphor as well. So really, they were born, right, or that is the new country, right, of Nisei parents, I mean of the second generation of immigrants. So often they faced a different set of challenges, right, such as, you see, they have to correlate as well, or they have to pay attention to the background of their grandparents. So you see that their grandchildren, if I will speak about third generation of immigrants. So really they understand, or I have to join someone. So they understand, okay, Anastasia. So they understand that they are different, and that is as well due to the different background, right, of their grandparents mostly. So they and their parents, they were born in the same country, and that is America, for example, but their grandparents, really, they were born in another country. So, and you see, they understand if we will correlate and compare. So you see that, is, of course, that appeal to the identity, or you see a great interest to the process of identity, the problems, sorry, of identity. Really, it may shape the understanding of a modern literature in general, because you see, from this perspective, we have to analyze the text. And that is not just about the literature itself, right? Do you agree that here we may speak about the literature, and that is as well like about cultural studies, right? About the problems of identity, that is more individual approach, that is about psychology. So it seems that that is a literature that is the good possibility, or that is a literature that may connect, right? Psychology, linguistics, even from these deep analysis of such a text. So cultural studies due to different background, and you see that is like maybe key characteristic, right, of a modern literature. So if we will compare the first generation of immigrants, so you see, mostly being in a new country, they try to get rid, you see, or forget about the identity, about the background. They have to be perceived like a true American here, that is regardless, right, to the color of the skin. But the third generation, I mean the grandchildren, so you see, they have to be reborn. You see this identity, or this rich background of their grandparents. So that is something like a brand for them, you see. That is something that they would like to be proud of. And that is, you see, quite different to understand. Of course, that is finding or analyzing the text, hybrid or bilingual text, where there are a lot of unique words, I mean the exotisms which were taken from another language, and that is the author's intent to highlight the importance of them, like dash, that is a homeland, like you see Anaprazan, so bindi, like for Indian women, you see they have bindi here, like a red dot. That is to indicate on the cultural perspective, yeah, and cultural characteristic. But you see, that is something like here we may find only with a detailed analysis of such a text. That is something which seems to be hidden, or something which acquire or should be characterized under the subtextual meaning. So in general, the text seems to be like the usual text. You see, that is a problem about generation gap, about the family, about the education, about love. But with a more detailed analysis, that is, you see, we may find these problems. So as well, from this technique, here we may find that, or we have to understand that, that is, here we have to follow close reading technique, which is quite relevant to see in the characteristic of a modern literature. So along with the close reading technique, as well, we don't have to forget that that is like a characteristic of a modern literature, that is following storytelling technique. You see, storytelling technique. That is, as well, we are provided with a text, and so we are the reader, we take more active part in a text analysis, in a text characteristic. But following storytelling technique, you see, we are provided with a more visuals here. So more visuals here, I mean more pictures, that is to switch on the reader's imagination and be focused more, you see. And from this perspective, that so now we have less text, but more visuals here, and imagine such a text, that is a characteristic of a modern literature, more visuals here with a storytelling technique. And that is up to the reader to draw his own conclusions, which will be different, you see, due to different factors. That is, will be different due to background, life background, cultural background, you see, due to different individual factors, the text analysis and text interpretation, and even the ending of the text, because you see that is a characteristic of a modern literature, to have an open ending, or the text seems to have an open ending. So it seems that while reading such a text, or when we are up to finish such a text, it seems that the reader forgot, right, to provide with 2 or 3 pages. way the story will end. Of course, we cannot predict, and that is why more realistic, you see, attempt. You see, that is why their character as well may cry. Here, that is a lot of emotions, right? That is a characteristic of a modern literature, and that is up to the reader, you see, to understand in what way the story will end. That is quite difficult as well, and so that shaped the literature. And so who knows then, if we will speak about future of a literature or modern literature, that from this perspective we will analyze the text as well. That is, will be more connection, you see, or more tasks for the reader as well. So now we take no passive but an active part, right, in the text analysis. So if we will, you see, analyze the essay and sansei, I mean this three generation of immigrants. So in their poetics of prominent writers, for example, in Bharati Mukherjee and Jhumpa Lahiri, so we have to understand, so I will try to make it bigger maybe for you to see. So we have to understand that, you see, still their poetic of both of the writers, so they are female writers, it is similar, right? But in general, so if we will speak about the characteristic of Bharati Mukherjee's work, so often that is address the immigrant experience. You see, mostly that is a focus on the transformation that really occur across generation. That as well, so from this perspective, we have to understand that that is the author's intent to provide with a lot of conceptual, I mean a lot of individual metaphors, which you see within the text. And so from this perspective, the exploration of the three generation of immigrants, that is Issei, Nisei, and Sansei, you see, can be understood, you see, with the self-discovery of the character, you see, with this transitional, you see, process, how to be perceived like a true, you see, American, for example, still they want to be reborn, or they feel that they should be reborn here in a new country. So it is the same maybe attitude in the poetics of Jhumpa Lahiri. So in general, if we will characterize the Jhumpa Lahiri fiction, so now Jhumpa Lahiri, that is about 60, she's about 60, now she lives in Italy, right? So that is, so she's a has the education of a journalist, but you see that she's a writer. Both of them are writers. So you see, we can't find an educational institution that after graduating that we will become a writer. So you see that is just your inner, you see, desire and the wish to become a writer. That is why mostly from the journalist, so she became to be a quite popular writer, and she has a lot of novels as well as the short stories. Even she was awarded a prize in the literature that is quite, you see, important or crucial in the poetics of Lahiri. But mostly, most of them, that they focus on the identity, right, on the problems of migration and on the showing these unique and so hyphenated or border characters. So as well, that is quite close characteristic of three generation of immigrants. So often they try to emphasize, or the writer try to emphasize mostly or be focused on the emotional, right, and the psychological dimension of the generational experiences. So in general, that is quite, or maybe considered to be as well a key characteristic of Jhumpa Lahiri. That is, right, be closely related to the emotions, right, of her characters. That is something that is different here, right? So if we will provide with a comparative analysis, so we have to understand so that both Mukherjee and Jhumpa Lahiri, they explore this, you see, unique or maybe invisible tension that as well we may find only with a detailed analysis of such a text. That is something like a bridge, which is a powerful metaphor, and that is something like a tension, which is invisible, but which is there, right, in the text, we have to understand. And so there is a tension between the generations, you see. So here both of the writers, they illustrate how each, you see, for them navigate their own cultural expectations and so personal aspirations that they are different, right, due to different cultural background. So from this perspective, they provide valuable insight right into the complexities of a culture identity, which is still in the process of formation, which is still not formed, so they understand that there is something which is lack, right, in the holistic maybe representation of the identity. So that is as well the focus on the assimilation in general, of course, due to different generation of immigrants, and really their relationships, right, across the generations. So then that is the next, that is the metaphor of vision. That is no less important in the characteristic of a modern literature. That is metaphor of vision, metaphora spoglядання, right? That is quite as well powerful in the modern literature. And so from this perspective, we have to analyze that is something which is hidden as well, which is put by the writer and which is hidden, but we are like the readers, we have to find that. So really that is a problem of, you see, being visible or invisible, or when the women character, they are objectified, right? Стають предметами in the, you see, in the society, in the family. That is quite challenging, or that is up to the writer to highlight on the importance of that. So for example, and a lot of female characters, you see, address this issue and this problem. For example, Jhumpa Lahiri, so she explores how female characters really navigate their identities, right, in the environment that really often objectify, right, and so they understand that they are like the margins, right, margins. They are, or they stand on the border, which they cannot overcome. And so you see here, we may find that in her debut novel, that is a namesake, of course, that is a characteristic of, here we may find some other conceptual metaphor, that is a darknam and the palunam, which is home and official name, because in India, a person is given to name, and that is according to the culture, you see, to have your official name and your pet name, so official for the society, for the envelope, so for the papers, but so pet name, that is a home name, that is just for your relatives, for your, you see, circle of your friends. And but you see, here we may find some other metaphors, and that is a metaphor of vision, when you see, so, and here, by the way, that's the Gogol Ganguly, that, so we see that is not Gogol about the surname of the writer, Makola Gogol, for example, right? But you see, so Gogol here, that is name, and Ganguly, that is his surname. Of course, there is a tendency to understand about the powerful meaning of a name, because if here, so if characterize this novel in short, we see the character decided to change his name, and later he becomes Nikhil, that is his new name. He decides to change his name, that is maybe to betray his parents' traditions. That is not quite common in India, that his parents do not understand him. But so Nikhil, if we'll correlate about the origin, that is what taken from Latin language, and it means nothing, nothing. Nikhil nischo. So that is why, as well, that is a powerful or quite crucial, right, to understand about the this significant meaning of a name. But here we have to be concentrated mostly on the metaphor of vision and why it is powerful. So here that is Mushumi, that is his wife, as well. She has Indian origin or roots. So really she has this experience, this, you see, painful or bad experience. That is, she understands that she had a sense or feeling of being overlooked. That is as well, which will relate to the misunderstanding both by the society, by her family, by her husband. So she understands that she has no voice, of course, in a figurative meaning, and she is invisible. She is invisible character. You see, invisible. So being invisible, she understands that she has a secondary place here, right, in the society, in the life of her husband, right? And so that is something that you see up to the writer to highlight, right, on the importance of that. So as well, Jhumpa Lahiri often contrasts, you see, this character's self-perception with the way how they perceived, right, by the others, either the same perception due to different generation of immigrants. So if we take into consideration the collection of a short story that is interpreter of melodies, so you see he is interpreter of melodies, like, so he's interpreter Mr. Kapasi of melodies because he knows that language, but really that is a powerful meaning of the title, because he may interpret not just the melody, but the melodies of immigrants, that is how to assimilate to a new country. But here as well, we have to be focused on the female characteristic, mostly about the metaphor of vision. So here we have the Mrs. Das, and so that is, you see, that is like a moment here in, that is a short story, by the way, right? It is not a novel, that is a short story. But here that, so we have a Mrs. Das, and so she feels that to be isolated, to be, you see, alone here, that is within her own life. That is something like a space or a gap in her own life that she cannot fill in. As well, she understands that she is like the Mushumi, she is invisible, and that is a sense of being objectified by the society, by her husband. So you see that they understand, I mean, such characters that they are invisible, they have no voice, of course, in a figurative meaning, in a metaphorical meaning, and really they understand that they are pretty. I mean, they have the pretty appearance. You see, probably they are pretty. You see, that is just the appearance, which really important, right? They understand. But you see, no insight into their psychological life, no insight into their, you see, the inner world. And they understand that it's just they pretty, or they are just like a body, right, for the husbands, for example. And still, their, I mean, characteristic of their personality, characteristic of their, you see, own traits, that is something which is, you see, less considerate. As well, if we will correlate about the perception of a metaphor of vision in the analysis of Amitam, so here that is, you see as well, that is a female characters, and as well that is a problem, I mean the metaphor of vision, which is, you see, quite a good characteristic in the poetic of Amitam. So Amitam often shows the metaphor of vision, you see as well, and so she correlates that with the generational gap, which we may find between immigrant mothers and the American-born daughters. As well, that is a well-known novel, The Joy Luck Club, that is Klub Radosti I Udachi. It is translated into a lot of languages, and you see that is even a bestseller, right? And really that is here, we may find the different ways, right, in which characters see and understand each other. And so you see that is highlighting, you see the complexities of a cultural identity, but due to gender roles. Here, in the context of a metaphor of vision, we can't forget, or we have to highlight on the importance of the gender roles changes. You see that is due to the traditions, or due to the stereotype, due to the norm. So you see mostly female characters, they are associated with warmness, with home, with coziness, right, of the house. So that is providing with a lot of food, maybe raising children, you see, being at home. But here, that is Jhumpalahiru and Amitan, they touch upon this, you see, quite challenging problem. And that is maybe some changes here we may find in the society, which are still in the process of changing. You see, the perception of a woman is different. They are not perceived to be invisible, but they acquire some voice, you see, due to the concept of equality. And really, you see, we may correlate that is to be maybe quite a powerful metaphor, right, to understand about the perception of a woman in a modern literature. Of course, we can't forget about the culture and to see gender objectification of a woman. And as well, we may speak about Amitan, that she addresses how women really often objectified. That is due to or within the cultural context, and due to or by with external society. That is something, you see, they understand that like a gap or space, right, they cannot fill in with something. That is, you see the novel, The Kitchen God's Wife, right? Дружина кухонного Бога. That is one more novel of the writer, which here we may find, you see, they're addressing to such a problem. So here we have the protagonist experience, right? That is something like a marginalization. Such a character, she understands that she is different. That is a problem of abuse as well. And really that is, while reading such a text, we have to understand that is a reflection to a more, you see, broader problems, right, of gendered invisibility. Still we understand that they are invisible, right, due to these factors. So as well, okay, the next one, I will do the next one. So you see, that is gender visibility, or you see, they are visible or invisible. We have to understand in what way, or that is the same or no tendency, right, that is following this metaphor. So we will try to interpret modern fiction, you see, and the representation of a woman's objectification. So if we will speak and so try to analyze the poetics of a prominent, you see, female writers, that is Jhumpa Lahiri, for example, and Amitan. So mostly that is metaphor of vision, or vision in general, that is, you see, quite powerful metaphor here in the poetics of Jhumpa Lahiri, for example. But something still that, so I would like to say one more time, something which seems to be hidden in the text. And that is up to the reader to find this, you see, meaning with a detailed analysis, with a subtextual meaning, something which we may find only with this close reading technique. Following this close reading technique, I mean the analysis of each detail, of each symbol, because that is a characteristic of a modern literature, right, to have a lot of symbols, right, a lot of symbols. And so from this perspective, vision often symbolizes, you see, the characters' struggles, that is mostly about female characters, so their unique struggles, right, with their self-perception, you see, in the expectation of the society. So should they follow these traditional norms or values or beliefs of a woman, you see, to prepare a lot of food, to spend the whole day on the kitchen, to raise the children, and you see, to be just associated with the coziness and with the warmth, right, of the house, or something which is different. So here, if I'm not mistaken, here we may find this something which is, we are like the readers, we are provided with the different maybe attitude, because if I'm not mistaken, that is a short story, Nobody's Business, okay? And that is written by Jhumpa Lahiri. And here we may find that is quite different, you see, that is different, you see, representation of a woman character. So as well, that is something like a gender role changes. Here we may find that is Amit, that is a male character, that is a husband. So he raises the children, he takes care of the children. So he prepares some food while his wife here at work, and while she is, you see, making her own business. So you see that is quite different, because there is still one collection, but here we may find that is a different attitude, right, towards women's objectification and representation in general. So in general, if we will analyze the Jhumpa Lahiri's poetics, so we have to understand that women in her works, that is short stories or novels, but again, we have to remember that while speaking about modern literature, that is short stories that prevail. Not novels, not, you see, novellas, but mostly there are short stories that prevail. So here we may find more short stories rather than novels, you see, if we will speak about, you see, modern literature. And so women in Jhumpa Lahiri mostly grapple, you see, with this expectation which is imposed by the both cultural heritage and the contemporary society, which is new, which they have to understand how to adapt, how to correlate that. So either the same about the same of women's objectification in the poetics of Amitan. So vision, which is, you see, like quite metaphorical here. So vision often represents the way how characters are really perceived, right, for themselves and their relationships, as well as the broader culture and generational gaps that they may navigate. Usually that is address the impact on gender, that is, you see, on the experience of female characters. Mostly that is in the context, right, of the cultural expectation and familiar roles, whether they should be followed or no, or not, and really that is mostly in the emiton, that is about the generations, right? Different generations. I mean, daughter and the mother. So generations. So then the next theme. So you see that is a role of gender and the matter of vision. And if we will correlate, if we will try to provide with a comparative analysis, so we understand that is a quite powerful metaphor, right? That is, so metaphor of vision, that is quite powerful. So here in the namesake as well, Gokul Ganguly even not about just about his wife Mushumi, but that is about Gokul Ganguly. So really he experienced a conflict, right, between his inherited cultural identity and his desire how to assimilate, and his maybe attempt, right, unique attempt, how to assimilate, how to be perceived like a true American into this new American society. And really that is a journey, his, you see, self-journey, that is something like as well may be considered to be a powerful metaphor. Because his journey involves this process of self-discovery. He understands that really there is a lot of things that he has to understand, right, or he has to correlate even with himself. And really vision from that perspective becomes a powerful metaphor, right, for understanding his own place here, right, in a new country. So, and that is, he's the second generation of immigrants. He's Nisei, and so he's caught between two cultures. And so this process, he has to correlate. Is it possible to navigate? Is it possible to blend these unique or different roles? So mostly in the emiton, the novel may be as well analyzed from the perspective of using a metaphor of vision. Most of that is due to generational and cultural divides, which really arise on the Chinese American immigrant mothers and their American born daughters, that we understand that due to different cultural background, they are different, right? They are different, and so of course there is something that they do not, something which they should not correlate, something which will be different in their understanding, right? In the holistic understanding of a society, of a modern world. And really that is quite challenging because again, that is appeal to the identity, how to show this complex identity. And so here the mother's struggles, right, can be understood by the daughters, and really the daughters' attempts may be compared to the mother's experiences. That is something you see mostly in general while reading such a text. You may understand, oh, that is a problem of generation gap. But again, while providing with a close reading technique or following this more detailed analysis, we may find this subtextual meaning, which relates to be a powerful metaphor. That is how or to what extent you are visible here in a society, or you are still invisible. You have no voice. You have to keep silent, of course, in a metaphorical meaning. Really, that is a highlight on the complexities, right, of the culture and gendered perspective. If we will correlate, if we will compare, you see the attitude or towards women's representation, towards, you see, women's portrayal here in the modern literature. So we have to understand that both writers, I mean, June Palayiri and Amiton, you see they use quite a lot of metaphors, right? Here we may find a lot of them, like dash, that is a homeland, right? Then you see Daphnam, Halonam, that is for patent for or official name. So here we often, when we are provided with such a bilingual text, that is, we see a lot of exotisms. They are not borrowings. They are not borrowings. Such a words, they are exotisms. Okay, exotisme and zapozychne. So because you see they have this special function here in the text. that is, they do not pretend to be used in the same language you see in future. I mean, they are target language, that is the English language. You see, they were taken from another language, from the source language, that is Hindi language, for example. You see, they are used by the writers just for once. You see, they have just this powerful meaning to highlight or to indicate on the uniqueness of another language and another culture. They do not such words like the isai, nisai, dash, like for the homeland. You see, ABCD, that is for American-born identity, that is for, you see, being or having this double identity. So everything having a double nature or ambiguous nature may be characterized from this perspective. And that is, you see, a characteristic of a modern literature. One, we are provided with a lot of unique words. And so while reading such a text, so usually the reader is provided in a bracket, right, with a short explanation, what does it mean? Or at the end of the same page, or at the end of the text. You see, that is like a list of unique or new words which were taken, that is the conceptual meaning, because they are exotisms, we cannot find such a word. And you see that is just the transliteration, that is, you see, with the help of another language, the help of the letters of another language, you see, we may be provided with a similar, you see, pronunciation of such a word. So it seems that we are reading something like a reference when we see unique words or exotisms, but you see that is also intent to provide a lot of them. And really, as well, that is a literature, and as well, that is a modern literature, or characteristic of a modern literature, that we may find a lot of unique or individual or conceptual meanings. They are not common. That is just in the poetics of this or that writer. You see, that is a characteristic. That is the poetic, that is the individual style of the writer, to be provided, writer to have a lot of metaphors. So here we have a lot of the things still in the literature that have the metaphorical, you see, meaning. So, and really, the metaphor of vision, that mostly, that is the way how to explore. We see how to explore the roles of a gender and the identity, right, in the story. And really, mostly the works of prominent writers who touch upon this problem. They are contemporary writers. They, of course, will contribute with something new in future, right, that will contribute in literature, okay, in general. So that is mostly related to the problem of gender roles, and so role of the gender and the identity in general, you see, because that is a key characteristic of a modern literature, to be mostly focused, or you see, characterized to the on the concept of identity, right? The way, the process of, you see, forming identity. So really, the works mostly reflect the struggles of their characters, who has to navigate cultural expectation, personal desire, the perception of the society, whether it's the same or different due to different factors as well, due to some changes in the society. Now we live in the world which is transcultural, which is globalized, that is under the process of globalization. So everything is in the process of changing, it seems, right? And that is why the analysis of a literature, or that may shape the literature, they has already shaped the literature, of course. So we have to understand the text in that way. So really, this rich exploration, right, of how vision may shape, and that is shaped, right, by gendered experience, that is something like a new issue which is added to the characteristic, right, of a modern text or a contemporary text, still which is hidden or seems to be hidden or having the subtextual meaning. That is up to the reader again to find this, you see, meaning and provide with such a detailed analysis of the text. That is up to the reader, because we take an active part. So as well, that is a namesake, the vision, that is self-discovery. So you see, we have to understand that is not about the male characters, but about the female characters. They are metaphor of vision, of they whether they are visible or invisible in a new country, in a new society, which is something that is added, right, to the characteristic of such a literature. So here we speak about the Gogol Ganguly, that is, so Gogol, that is his name, and so Ganguly, that is his surname. And it seems that we have, we see four letter G. 2-letter G in a Gogol and 2-letter G in a Ganguly, that is his surname. So he understands that with his name, it's a unique name and unique even surname, he is one maybe in the whole America here to find that. That is something like a pun, that is like a play with the words, play with the sounds, like something like a game, right? To say Gogol Ganguly, quite quick and so quite often. But you see here we have the protagonist, that is a main character, and so he experiences this conflict, right? Because really he is caught between two cultures, and he has to, on the one hand, follow his, that is due to the respect of his parents, he has to follow his home traditions, but on the other hand, he has his desire how to assimilate in the new environment, in the new American society. And really his journey involves really the process of self-discovery, and really that is a metaphor of vision, that is a vision that becomes a powerful metaphor, right, for the understanding his own place, whether so there is here in a new world and in the you see the world of his parents, because you see he is caught between two worlds. So while it is the same about his wife Mushumi, of course they have the same origin, that is you see Hindi language, or you see Indian culture. So you see that is his wife who also faces, you see, these struggles which is related, right, to her identity and with her the problems. So she is visible or invisible, right? You have to understand within the marriage, you see, and mostly with the society that she has to adapt to. And so from this perspective, you have to reflect, you see, these gendered aspects of invisibility and the process of objectification. So still that is, you see, quite challenging, right, for the writer. And that is, you see, like the unique issue which might get it. So as well, the problem of a gender and then like powerful metaphors, we may find in the collection of the debut short story of Jumpalahiri, that is Interpretive Melodies. And here we have Mrs. Sam. So really that is a title story here, and really that is a character of Mrs. Sam. That is a woman, she's about 40, for example, that is about this age, and really she understands that she is alone. Of course, in a metaphorical meaning, she is alone in whole America. So she has her husband, she has no children, and so she is a nurse, right? She takes care of Elliot, that is 11 years boy, and so she spends several hours a day with that boy. But really that is, while his American mom, you see, is busy, right? And so that is in the evening, right? That is like, they share just the bed, right? And it seems that the mother and the son. So they spend little time together, and that is a Mrs. San, but not his mom. That boy, right, trusts his secrets, spends a lot of time, and really that is like a second mom for him. And really that is, so she understands that she is alone here, so she is isolated here, of course, in a figurative meaning, and really she had this sense of, she understands that she is invisible, right, in her own environment. That is, she is invisible also for her husband as well, because she is constantly busy at work, and that is only in the evening, you see, he returns home and so have some meal there. So the whole day, she is alone here in a new apartment. That is a convenient apartment, but apartment as well, that is something like a cage, you see, klitka, cage for her, and that is, of course, in the metaphorical meaning, because really that is mentally she is still at home with her parents, with her relatives, but following her husband, she was forced, right, to leave her home country and so to become or to start her new life in America, where everything seems to be new here. So on the one hand, she has to follow her home traditions, but on the other, you see, that is something she understands that like a gap for her, she cannot fill in something. And you see, she understands that her own struggles, how to maintain, how to correlate, how to blend, if that is possible, the cultural identity while being overlooked, right, by those who are around her really illustrate how this expectation, which is due to the gender, right, can affect one's sense of self, and so the process of her, attempt to be visible in future. So vision here becomes like a powerful bridge, of course, in a metaphorical meaning. And here there is a vision that like is something for attempts to bridge the gap between the past and the present experience, to correlate. As well, there is a tendency of a modern literature from this perspective to speak or to address about the stream of consciousness technique, okay? Stream of consciousness technique, потік свідомості. When there is a tendency to correlate present and the past. That is something like a jump in the present and the past. It seems that, and from that perspective, a narrator may be unreliable, That is within the same text, we may find the first narrator, that is from my point of view, how do I understand this or that problem and what is my attitude toward that. And so on the other hand, that is, the third generation, that is someone else here who is presented and who may have completely different point of view and attitude, right, towards the same problem even. And here that is while introducing or having this unreliable narrator, that is like a characteristic of a modern literature, where everything is blended, everything is combined, and really that is quite challenging, right, to have this unreliable narrator with a stream of consciousness technique as well. So yes, we will have maybe 5 times. I will finish the lecture. Okay, that is just the key items, and then so we'll proceed to our tasks here. You may find in the chat section. So here that is a Joy Luck Club. That is as well by Amit Tan, and here we have to speak about intergenerational vision. Because here we may, we have to speak about the mother's perspective and as well about the perspective of her daughter, So really the mother's struggles, that is how to be understood by the daughters, that is the daughter's attempt, which is comprehended, right, the mother's experience. That is one more time highlighting on the complexities of a culture and generative perspective. So here from the daughter's perspective, vision may be symbolized like the key challenge, right, of how to maintain, how to correlate different, expectation that is due to cultural background, due to some other factors that as well become a powerful metaphor and that well become or is related to the problem of identity, in general. So then we see the kitchen God's wife, so that as well we have to speak about the gender and the problem of vision, and that is a vision, which is a powerful metaphor. So you see the protagonist Winnie, so she experiences, a generate this, or she has this feeling of being invisible, right, with the help of her roles as the wife and the mother. So on the one hand, she has to be a caring mom and a caring wife, so and so she has to follow these traditional norms and so beliefs and so traditions, and really her journey to reclaim, right, her own narrative and the sense of the self really is portrayed, right, with the metaphor of vision. And here there is an attempt, right, for her to assert her identity, and which can be seen beyond traditional roles and as well the expectations. That is something, she has to get rid of, or she has to provide with something new. And really, as well, that is a vision that is quite powerful symbol here in the text. Again, the text, or we may find some other conceptual or unique metaphors, but mostly that is a metaphor of vision that in general may be characterized in the perspective of your identity, but really vision symbolizes, right, your struggles, how to correlate, her own life with the past and the present, perspectives and the background. So the purpose of our lecture today. So we can't provide with all of the items, with all of the challenges and issues that relate to the problem of a conceptual metaphor, because that is, so we are limited in time, unfortunately, and we need 3 or 4 lectures to speak in detail about this problem. But today I would like, my attempt was to provide just key items for you to understand in what way modern text, modern literature should be analyzed. That is according to the issue of a metaphor, which is like the linguistic maybe correlation with the text, but still that is a unique maybe issue which is added to the literature. Something which is invisible and something which is put by the writer, that is individual meaning. So that is why the purpose of today's lecture was not just to provide with a lot of information, that is, you may understand the problem of a metaphor in your own way, but you see that is for you to understand how modern metaphor, how these conceptual metaphors, which are unique, right, which are provided for the first time for that in the text, you see, may shape the literature, may shape the meaning of the whole text, which may be different, right, due to the implementation of a lot of unique and conceptual metaphors. And so for in the future, so if you will read modern literature, if you will have a task, such a task, that will be really your own choice or someone's recommendation, maybe your task, you see, you have to read some, you see, that is dependent which purpose, you see, you have to follow. And that is why while reading, as well, you may correlate and you may as well try to analyze some metaphors, some of the things that should have this metaphorical, I mean the individual meanings, right, a metaphorical and not a direct meaning. And really so, is it possible, try to understand them in your own way. And so if that is possible, try to create your own metaphor, how you understand this or that. So, and now let's, you see, maybe I will open maybe a chat section, you see, right? And so here we have, right, here we have, if you see my screen, then that is not maybe in a chat section, but for everyone, maybe it will be more convenient. So you see we have some of the poll questions. That is, I really wanted you to try to answer at the beginning of our lecture, but you see, still we were in the process of joining our lectures, not to you see, waste the time. So we started with the lecture and then we'll proceed to some activities. So who will please try to answer? So that is, to your opinion, which metaphor really you think best represents modern society in literature? So, okay, you're welcome to tell me your name, not to me, for me to come back each time. Okay, Pani Viro, okay, you're welcome.
So I would like to begin. So it was really interesting for me to look through all the questions and assignments. As for the first question, I would like to answer like this. Life is a journey through generations, at least, but it is also the challenge of identifying. Identity is a puzzle to be solved, and just your lecture has proved. To be honest, I am not a great connoisseur in modern literature, especially in such philosophical like finding the identity. Though in modern life, I, especially during the war events in our country, in having our students as well migrated to the other countries and starting from there. So I come across all the, now and then I come across the problems of finding the identity, especially for our Ukrainians in the other countries and generations, because parents and children moved to the other countries and they have different approaches, different situations. So it means that all these real situations are just can be traced in our life. And when I still talking, I would like to answer the question, maybe, which metaphors come to your mind when you think about contemporary literature? All of the time I was listening to your lecture and thinking it over. So I remember, I was keeping in mind the metaphor which I saw several days ago, last week, this book, and it was a picture about the possible end of the war when the predatory fish pike tried to swallow the small fish of carp, and it was unable to swallow it, and it suffocated, but the carp remained alive, and it was let into the river again, and that predatory pike fish, just the image of our northeastern neighbor, so was unable to swallow Ukraine as a small carp, absolutely peaceful fish. And so now and then the metaphors can be traced, can be met in our reality, not the philosophical, but the survival. It is not about psychology or philosophy, it is about our survival. And it seems to me it is it can be correlated. Maybe it is not the best example, but still, for me it was like that. Thank you for the attention, and thank you for the lecture.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
thank you, Pani Vero, for such, you see, a profound, answer, right? Really, that is, we can't, deny, right, or we can't correlate modern literature, like about the first item, like life is a journey, right? We may say that's something that may shape the modern literature, or something like about the identity we spoke a lot, or something like a puzzle, right, for us, that is to have this holistic picture of identity. Who am I? Still, that is an open question, right, for everyone, as well in the literature. Okay, so maybe someone else would like to continue. Maybe the next question then about that is up to you. That is your daily language. That is often, that is sometimes, never, for example, or we have to proceed to some other, maybe discussion questions, or then we have, true or false questions. So, okay, who would like maybe to continue, and which task maybe we have to follow then? So I will open, I will open that. So maybe true or false questions or discussed questions. So which one? Or maybe that is, you will explain this one. So which task then we have to proceed then? Okay.
While students are thinking, maybe they are not so active. So reading is the window to the other, to another world, to the other world. To be honest, I am fond of reading, have always been fond of reading. It's a pity now I have to read a lot on politics, economics, international relations, and so on. But still, reading is really a window to another world, and without reading, especially with our social nets for the young people, with their extra popularity, where it is not necessary to read, or it is possible to read only 2 lines and then watch the video. Reading is just abandoned. It is not that popular among, it's a pity, among young people, but still reading can be reading, thinking it over. It's really great, especially the world literature, when you can get acquainted with the life of the other identities, of the other mentalities, to realize them, to understand them. Especially it's applied when people from Ukraine come to the other countries, and to be prepared for that journey. So really, it is a great, I fully agree with that. It is a great thing, reading, and I wish our students to be more fond of reading and more acquainted with that and with the modern literature, and be in love with literature.
Mm-hmm. Right. We have to agree that, so it seems that the whole process of reading, or reading itself, it's really less popular nowadays, because, we are provided with a lot of information in the social media, in the internet. But you see, still, that is something that, so we cannot say that, that it is ousted, right? It seems to be ousted to some extent, but still, literature, we have to hold, we have to encourage. That is quite challenging for the contemporary writers, to encourage, to hold that audience, right? to provide with something new. So modern literature seems to be quite challenging, right, with the addressing of quite, you see, unique and so maybe complex issues of race, identity, migration in general, more psychological, you see, insight. But from this perspective, you see, that is mostly about, right, we have to understand. So you see, that it will enlarge, you see, our understanding. So we have 2 minutes or no, then. So you see, for your, that is, so in future, if you will have such a task to read something, so you see as well, you might think that is it possible so to remember the metaphor that you still remember from the literature that really you come across for the first time while reading. So try to understand and so try to interpret, you see, the notion of conceptual metaphor to you. How do you understand that? What is that? So is it difficult to interpret conceptual metaphors? So, and some of the things here, we have like a true or false, maybe some of them we will answer. That is just about the first one. Conceptual metaphors we may find only in a poetry. Is it true or false?
No, it's not true, because every piece of literature, the form doesn't matter, so it can be full of metaphors. By the way, here is the book I had to return to paper book when there was no electricity for 18 hours and nothing worked, no internet. So I had to return to it's Rextout, one of my favorite American authors, the author of detective stories with the same main character, Nira Wolf. So I like it very much, his style. So it was, of course, translated, but still I had to return to the paper book because no other ways of reading were possible, were accessible.
Okay. So, so maybe some discussion questions. So, who would like? Okay. So, I thank you so much that you have found, you see, unfortunately, we are limited in time as usual, but you see, I do really thank you so much for the
you are having thanks
today. Yeah, that you have found the time to join the lecture today. And so I'm as well will be grateful to continue this, you see, tradition, so to work together. And so do you have any questions maybe?
Anyway, we are thankful really for your lecture. Everybody is nodding who was really listening attentively. So it's really great to see the other viewpoints, so to meet new people, to see the familiar faces, and just to listen to your wonderful English, and to be, for me, it is something new, because I am not that well acquainted with the literature of such kind. So that is why it was really a pleasure for us to listen to your lecture and to see your presentations and to have the food for our thoughts.
Okay. Щиро дякую, пані Віро, за модерування сьогоднішньої зустрічі, вже десь перейду на українську мову. Щиро рада була бачити вас і ваших здобувачів. І десь, сподіваюся, надалі ми продовжимо цю традицію. Завжди рада десь підтримати вас і ви нас. Окей, тому, якщо потрібно, я надішлю пані Вірі лекцію, можливо, хтось хоче пропрацювати для самостійного, так, десь можливе питання, такі завдання. Раптом буде вільний час, то будете мати чудову нагоду попрацювати в такому руслі, можливо, хтось так буде з літературою більш зв'язаний. Тому бажаю вам тихого, мирного дня і надалі, і сьогодні, звичайно, щоб все було добре, спокійно. І дякую за зустріч. До нових зустрічей тоді.
Дякуємо і вам. Гарного дня.